Hi there, Sandy Freshy here. Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we are going to be talking about the 2 reasons that you may not recognize yourself in your human design chart. Now this video is for you if you have gotten a copy of your chart. Maybe you've even gotten a reading or you've done some research online and something doesn't seem to be lining up for you. So let's take a look at the 2 main reasons that this could be happening. So one of the main reasons that you may not recognize yourself in your human design chart has to do with your birth information. If you have incorrect birth information, and usually this is an incorrect birth time, then that could throw your entire chart off. It's always good to ask your mom if she's still alive, or ask your siblings if you don't have it on your birth certificate what that time is, but sometimes they don't remember either. And a lot of times we can at least do a general reading of your type, strategy, and authority if we can narrow down the approximate time. But there are times when, especially if you're going deeper into your design, or if there are a lot of changes with your design, where you really need to have your correct birth time down to the minute or maybe even the second. So if you don't have a correct birth time, or if you're not sure of your birth time, you could come to someone like me, or you can run your own charts if you want, and you can get several charts within that time frame. If you have a time frame, like if you know your day but you don't have a time at all, you may want to get a spread every hour or two for all of the hours of that day. Or if you know it within a certain time, like sometime in the morning or sometime in the afternoon. Sometimes people will say things like, well, my mom thinks that I was born sometime after lunch but before dinner, something like that. So if you know that, then you can come to someone like me, and we can run a series of charts. And what I look at when I'm looking at these charts are, I'm looking at significant changes in the chart in each time frame. So for instance, this person has a lot of variability in her chart depending upon the exact time that she was born. So, you know, the root is defined in some of these charts, the spleen is defined in some, and then in some they're not defined. The profile changes from 4-1 to 4-6 to 5-1 throughout this time frame. So this is where we would sit down and I would ask her some questions that could give us some clues about perhaps her profile, or perhaps the characteristics of these defined and undefined centers. And then to go even a little bit more deeply into that, I could possibly ask her about the gate that's in her moon, because the moon changes every few hours. The moon placement changes every few hours. So that could also help me to hone in further. Sometimes I just can't get it, and there's a reason for that as well, and that's the second reason why you may not recognize yourself in your human design chart. The second reason why you may not recognize yourself in your human design chart could be due to conditioning. And this is where it can get kind of tricky, especially with someone with a lot of variation in their charts from hour to hour when they don't know their birth time. Conditioning can really cloud and confuse and create a lot of unclarity about which chart is really yours. So when we talk about conditioning in human design, we often refer to a term known as the not self. And let me show you what that looks like on a human design chart, and you'll get an idea, and you'll probably have an aha about why sometimes you may not recognize certain characteristics about yourself. So here's a manifestor's chart on the left hand side, and here is the not self chart on the right hand side. So a manifestor, or this manifestor, all manifestors have an undefined sacral center, and they also have one or more motors that connect to the throat. So this manifestor has the will center that's connected to the throat. Now, If this manifester doesn't really know that they're a manifester or has been somehow conditioned to believe that they need to act in a different way, they could be trying to operate off of all of this energy that they're taking in from the outside that you can see in the definition on the not self chart, and really believing that that is who they are. So this expression, this conditioned expression of this particular manifestor's chart could come out as someone who really believes that they're here to work and they're here to be a workhorse of sorts because they're amplifying sacral energy. They may believe that they can work really well under stress and pressure, and they may believe that they have this sense of emotionality about them, that they have to kind of feel out their emotions, when actually in their chart they are not here to work consistently. They're not here to work under pressure. They're not here to operate from a sense of their emotionality, right? So this person, if I'm asking about their defined centers and their undefined centers, may really believe that they're actually someone who has these centers defined. And I know they've got on the not self chart, they've got the G center and the head center defined, but these are like the most palpable. So that's why I'm kind of honing in on these three. So you can see how conditioning can really cloud your perception of yourself. Now here's another example of someone who could be conditioned in another way. This is a manifesting generator's chart on the left, and they have the sacral center defined. It connects directly to the throat. There's the spleen center and there's the G center defined. However, they may feel as though they need to operate under pressure. They may believe that they're a very emotional person, and they may also believe that they need to make promises and keep them. And this could put them, especially with this will center, into a lot of situations that are actually going to weigh down their sacral response. It's actually going to disconnect them from their sacral response. Now, another thing that I've heard from a lot of manifesting generators and people who have manifesting generator children and spouses is sometimes they actually act as though they are projectors. And one of the reasons for this may be that on their not self chart, they actually don't have the sacral center defined. There are other mechanical reasons in the way that they use or maybe misuse their sacral energy that could be happening. But you can kind of see that if they're mistaking themselves for someone who doesn't really have this consistent energy to work, then they're probably not going to recognize the power that they have within their sacral motor. So if you're a person who has a pretty accurate birth chart because you know that the time is accurate and you still don't recognize yourself in your chart, the conditioning dynamics may actually be why you don't recognize yourself. And if that's the case, I want to invite you to check out my course called the Deconditioning Blueprint. And this is where you can get all of the nitty-gritty information about what conditioning is, how it affects you, what it looks like in your human design chart, and you can start to discover who you're not so that you can embrace who you are. So I'll leave a link for the Deconditioning Blueprint down in the description, and you are more than welcome and you are definitely invited to check it out. And if you are not sure about your birth time and you want to kind of hone in on your specific chart and get a pretty good accurate chart for yourself, please contact me on my website, and I'll leave the link below as well, and we can discuss how we can sort of hone in on what is the correct chart for you. And don't forget to like this video if you like it, share it with anyone that you think would benefit, and please subscribe and hit the little notification bell so that you are notified of the next videos when they are uploaded. And until the next time, be well.